Greetings and welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, we're here with, we got Quint on right now, and if anybody else is going to jump on, they'll jump on a little bit. I see Yates Networks is going to take a nap, so he probably won't be on, and haven't heard from anyone else yet, so we'll kind of see if anyone else jumps on. But anyway, these are the supporter stream. We do actually have the stream link also now on Subscribestar, so you can jump on at Subscribestar at Switch to Linux. We are on Patreon, TOMM, and on Think Life Media. So you can actually, jump on the show a variety of different ways to help support the show. But that's what we have going on. And I remembered to unmute you today. So how's it going?
I'm fine.
All right, very good.
Yeah, I just got a Raspberry Pi 4, so everything's been good.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I got another one here. I needed a power
Tomorrow,
supply. They didn't have just power supply, so I got a power supply with a Pi. So why not?
the 2 gig,
No, it's a
that one is
4.
2 gig.
I wanted like one of my applications needs a 4. One of my applications 2 is going to be good enough. So I was like, maybe I'll just buy the 2 next. But since I needed the power supply, I just said, let's just go ahead and buy that. And who knows if I can get a 2 cheap enough, maybe I'll buy a 2 online and get that in because I'm going to do this project that
Yeah.
requires the 4
I think
first
the
and then
way
the
that
1
the
later.
boards are actually marketed is the 2 is 35, the 4 is 45, and the 8 is 55. That's just the board itself, not with like the power
I
supply
think the
stuff.
boards are 55. Because like the last one I bought was just a board, and I remember it being 55. And I looked around. I don't know. You know
Um,
what? I actually have the Raspberry Pi website pulled up because that's one of the
yeah,
greatest first tips to resist data collection. So we're actually going to be talking about tips to resist data collection today, a variety of different ways. I actually spent all
yeah,
night last night playing around with getting a VPN system working out to find out that it turns out if you hotspot off of Mint Mobile right now, they seem to be having issues with VPNs. I think that's because, and they think that's because of T-Mobile is blocking VPNs on their hotspots. So I'm still looking into that, and I'll update you guys as to what we find out. I have the VPN working fine on the phone, but it's the hotspotting. But then I went out and I tested the hotspot a couple different places, and the VPN works out pretty great. I have a VPN
I,
connected to a Pi hole that's hooked up. So anyway,
yeah, I still have Verizon. Everything's been fine. I have noticed, the whole thing about them rolling out 5G, how the service has degraded some, like you've said before.
hmm
Yeah, there's a specific place that I go where it's really the area where my grandparents live, which is in the middle of nowhere. You can't get anything but Verizon out there. So I still have a valid
yeah.
reason to keep it.
Yeah, so I'm looking at. I want to get a separate cell phone carrier for my business. So I'll have the Mint Mobile, and then I'll have a separate one for the business. I'm going to do a different carrier, and I'm researching. I think I know which one that is. Can't remember which one it is. I can't remember. I'll have to look at get the name of it and stuff. But I looked at Patriot Mobile, which is pretty cheap. But and they're Verizon, but they're still using the old CDMA system on Verizon, and that's not going to be good. I'm guessing that they're probably going to switch soon, but we'll see.
You should look at US Mobile. That's another Verizon one.
Okay. Yeah, there's a few on my list to look into. So I'm gonna do one. I want to have at least. I want my carrier towers to be across 2 separate carrier towers. So like T-Mobile towers, which is what Mint uses, is a very good everywhere I've been, save for one place. If I go out of town to, I think, the south and kind of shoot up over the mountain into the next city of Pine Grove Mills, I don't get cell signal on Mint Mobile over there, but Verizon does work over there. I'll have to test what AT&T does and things like that. I'll ask
I
my
actually,
friend. He's got AT&T.
the town where my family's other house is, it's near Athens, Georgia. The small town that we're in actually gets better signal on T-Mobile than Verizon.
Yeah, that's
Verizon signals like poop,
there's some
and
places
T-Mobile
that's
signals
like.
great.
Yeah. So let's look at the pies real quick. So the 2 GB board only is 35, 4 GB is 55, 8 is 75. So they're kind of jumping up by $20 increments by those. So yeah, I was
Yeah,
pretty sure that was 55 because I just bought
yeah.
a regular board and then I bought it might be the basic kits. Yeah, so I got the basic kit was the other one because the basic kit is what they had available at Best
I think
Buy.
that's the same one that I got. I have
No, you have the next one up because the
I have
basic
the
kit.
4 gig basic kit is
Well,
what I
the
meant to
basic
say.
kit. Oh, the basic kit does not come with a case though. If you bought your case separate,
Yeah,
then yes, that's the case.
that's why I bought this
Yep.
one separate.
Yeah.
I didn't know CanaKit's case could easily come apart, so I just decided not to take a risk and just buy my own case.
Yeah, I considered the Cana kit ones with the case. That's the starter kit, I think, has the case. They actually have two of them. Best Buy has a clear case, this is the 99 one. They actually have an 89 one that I don't see listed here, and I'm pretty sure it was Cana kit, but it comes with a clear case. I'm not a huge fan of this. I have one of these black cases. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's not bad, and that's my for my Raspberry Pi 2 that lives on the back of my TV, so I don't really care. So as I was telling Quint before we started, the applications I'm building out for these Pis, so I got a couple Pis here to build some in-office applications. These are not getting removed from the cases anytime soon. So $5, I got these nice little acrylic. They're like 6-layered cases. You can access all the ports. They're hard, solid plastic. Everything is labeled on the front. It does come with this processor fan, like $5. Very awesome. So that's a cool application for that. But you said yours is planning to move
Yeah,
around a little
I
bit.
went
So.
with the official Raspberry Pi case, which also actually doesn't have a fan, but everything is labeled. I don't know how well you can
Mm-hmm.
see that. There are labels for everything.
Yep.
But the reason I got this one, it's like $10. I think I paid like $12 for this one. It comes
Mm-hmm.
apart super easily. All you have to do is pinch the sides right here, and then you get this, then you get the base, and then you can just pull it out. And I need to be able to take it out because I also have a touch screen which has its own case for Pi on the back.
Yeah. So you just needed to just get another Pi for the touchscreen. Get Pis all over the place. They're cheap.
I
Just a
actually
Pi.
already ordered the new one. It's only like the touchscreen cases are only like I think I paid like $30 for the touchscreen case. The touchscreen itself is like 70, but I can just take the old touchscreen case out, or take the old touchscreen out and put it in the new case.
So it looks like Mark jumped on. You're muted, Mark, but how's it going there? Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? You're still muted. You're still muted. Well, if you get yourself situated, jump on in and say hi when you get yourself situated. Let's go ahead and talk about how we can, the various tips to resist data collection. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to record this part, so we'll kind of get some recording going, have a little bit shorter and more concise video. So that way we don't have like 10 minutes of rambling at the very beginning. People are like, oh,
I'm here.
Going to get cool. Hey, Mark, how's it going? What's going on, man?
Pretty good. Not much. I'm sorry. I had to catch a call from my buddy that I actually service his machines, and I had to get him connected real quick.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to try and stay on focus here for probably at least 20 minutes or so. We're just going to go through just some various tips of any way, shape, or form to help resist data collection. So I'm going to go ahead and push the record button, and then we will get started. And then
I'm going to mute myself. So.
All right. All right. So welcome back to Switch to Linux. We are going to do just a little pull-out session here, and we're going to talk about various tips to resist data collection. What are the types of things that we do as people? And so, of course, I have Quint on right now, and I have Mark Yates over here at Yates Networks for, you do networking type stuff, I believe, Mark, right? And you have a YouTube channel, which you can kind of go into some of those. So we're going to look at a variety of different tips for data collection. I kind of got the idea of this because I've been playing around with what I'm doing is I'm minimizing my networking infrastructure. So right now I have a mini tower on running my OMV and things like that. So all my file sharers are there. What I want to do is I want to replace that mini tower with the Raspberry Pi. So this is a Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is probably going to be sufficient to run OMV, but we'll figure that out. Have it in a nice hard plastic acrylic case here, and I can, hang the guy on whatever I'm going to do, plug the fans in, and then what we'll do from there is I'm going to go through and get OMV built up on this, and we'll see if this is as compatible and as comparable as my current build. I'm going to get a second one. I'm going to build an internal web server, which we're going to do. But I also spent a lot of time last night playing around on the Pi Zero, and this guy now, this little half a credit card size $5 Pi Zero, actually now runs Pi-hole, which I can use as a global ad blocker. I don't use it actively just because my router does all that as well. But this is a great option if you have a commercial router and you want a good ad blocker. Pick yourself up one of these guys, and you'll be able to create that. And then I also piggybacked onto that a VPN. So now I can just, when I'm going to leave the house for an extended period of time, I could just plug this guy into my network, open up the VPN port, and we will actually be able to access all of my network shares, all of my internal infrastructure, all of my internal networks from on the go, wherever I'm at, utilizing this. It's a great way to resist the data collection of ad trackers and things like that, because this becomes my DNS server, and I can tell all those ad trackers, ad blockers, and all that kind of stuff to go and jump in a lake. So that's kind of where I got the inspiration for doing this, and I will have videos about how to create that. Of course, we already did the how to create the Pi-hole video. We're going to have the other video about creating the VPN on top of that soon. I recorded all the footage, and when I have that done, then we'll get that video out and released. So those are my general initial tips. What type of tips do you guys have? Mark, we'll go ahead and start with you if you're ready, if you want to jump on in. Just any tips, any way, shape, or form for that.
I read the subject matter a little beforehand, and I looked for any article that might be posted. It's really right up my alley. Basically, I like to check privacy policies, and it's really all about trust with me. So many of these companies are collecting data, and one of the very best things you can do is just work with companies that you trust, or do business with companies even as a consumer, a regular user. Try not to do business with companies that have a history of data breaches as well, because so many of these companies have been hacked several times. Also, I would say companies that respond well to when they are hacked, because it's inevitable. Most any company is going to be hacked. If a hacker wants to get in, they will get in. It just the willpower and sheer determination, they will get in. Especially with tools on the internet these days. Brute force tools have been around for decades now, and there's so many things they can do to get in, to get admin access on servers and get any account information they can. How a company responds to that will make or break a company, in my eyes, and in the public's eyes, I hope. If they admit it and come out with it and say, we were breached, but we're taking measures to mitigate it, and we hope this never happens again, and we're strengthening our security. Those are the things you want to look for. And you want to look for companies that are not going to downplay it and push it to the side and act like it's no big deal, because most of the times it is a big deal.
Yeah, there's one example I'm looking into, and it was on my list to create as soon as I get the chance. I'm going to add coin payments to be able to do cryptocurrency donations on the site. And coin payments did have a breach in 2017. The day it happened, they came out with all the details. They locked everything down, and nobody lost anything. Literally, the company paid out of their pocket to make sure that nobody lost anything. Exactly. That is the type of thing. So I looked at it and go, well, that's at least a company I can stand behind, because we can't expect perfection, but what we want, Verizon's never been a perfect company in all the years I was using them, but they were really good on customer service until they weren't. So hence I left. But that's that. So yeah, that's a good plan, looking at the privacy policies and the company reputations. Quint, we'll jump on over to you. What do you give us a tip for yourself?
I'd agree with everything that Mark said. That's great. Look at the privacy policies, even if you just skim them. Like, a lot of the stuff is like cookies and stuff. I don't usually read that, but I read the part about data collection and what they sell to other companies if they do that, stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of the uses more specific, or one of the things that I have personally is if you have IoT devices, a good alternative to platforms, cloud-based platforms that harvest your data, like If This Then That and Samsung Smart Things, just to name a few, is Home Assistant, which is a local IoT platform that runs on a Raspberry Pi. And it can interface with Zigbee, Z-Wave, Wi-Fi, and a whole lot of other stuff. And it's all local on your network. You can choose to have it connected to the cloud, but I don't really do that. That's a great option if you have lots of IoT devices that you don't want to get rid of, but you want them to be more private, especially like Zigbee and Z-Wave. The way they work is they're mesh networks that have to connect to the hub in order to get to the internet. And if your hub blocks them from the internet, then you have a private smart home. It's really Wi-Fi is the main problem. But that's what I would recommend if you have smart home devices. Same thing like with Tom said, if you need a VPN server, Raspberry Pis are good for that. Same thing with Pi-hole. I definitely recommend using something like Pi-hole. I personally don't, because there's people in my family who like to click on ads. So we tried it for a little bit, but then it just didn't work. So I just what I did instead was I just downloaded a host file that blocks ads and trackers and just put that on my local computer, and that does the trick for me. I think that's really all I have to say about Raspberry Pi stuff specifically. I think Mark covered all the privacy stuff I would have said.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah. Let's jump into another one. Phones. For me, I'm always willing to give up a little bit of convenience to maintain that privacy. And that, I think, is an important thing. So my phones, like I've said again and again, I don't know, I might actually be done with smartphones when I'm done with my current batch of them. But we'll kind of see what happens. Right now, I'm using Lineage, and I like your Lineage derivatives because they allow me to access the root infrastructure when I'm logged in with the passkey, because I can push my custom host file, and that prevents all of those ad blockers, all those different ad networks, all the different trackers, all the Facebook things, all of the session replay, all that kind of stuff that otherwise you might be like, well, you can just install you can go ahead and install an extension for that. Well, not on a phone, because your apps are perpetually harvesting data. They have things banned. In fact, what was it just this last week in the news we looked at? What was it, like 1,200 apps from Apple had Chinese adware companies in there that were harvesting data from all these different apps. And what I do with my phone is, because Lineage allows me to access the root system as ADB root, I can push a custom host file that apps cannot even push those ad blockers. It's one thing just to install an extension on your web browser on your phone, but your phone connects way more places than a web browser. Your computer, depending on which computer you're running, Microsoft is all over the place. Apple, not so much, and Linux almost never. But the thing is that when you have a mobile operating system, they can embed those ad trackers right into the applications, and no ad blocker extension is going to solve that on your phone. But if you can block them at the root level with a host file, that'll do it. The other thing, though, that will do it is if you do force an always-on VPN, like utilizing your Raspberry Pi Zero, always connecting back to a VPN that's either at your home server, or more ideally, if you're doing that, you want a cloud server like Linode or AWS or something. Build yourself out your own VPN, be perpetually connected to that. Then you can use Pi-hole on top of that. So if you are running a smartphone, that's the thing you want to do, and you want to force every bit of data through the phone to go through that VPN. And that way you can block all those things without having to do a custom ROM. So that's another tip to resist data collection. Mark, go ahead. You're up.
With phones, I'm just going to be more practical. I used to use Lookout Security. It was pretty good for privacy and security combo. It had anti-theft protection. I know that people tend to lose their phones. As far as ad blockers on a phone, it's probably not going to be as effective. I wouldn't imagine so. I know that you can download extensions for it, but you can't really trust the iOS and Android Play stores much. Am I falling out? My audio's falling.
Nope, you're good.
Is it
You're good.
okay?
Yep.
But anyway, there's not a tremendous amount you can do on a phone to guard your privacy that I can think, other than download something like Lookout Security with anti-theft protection. That way, if you lose your phone, you're also protected. Cryptography software. I don't know that you can get this on the phone, but I get it on the computer. It's called Veracrypt. I'm actually running it now, which will encrypt your drive and partitions. But as far as a phone version of that or an alternative, maybe look for something like that. Set
Most of
good
your modern
passcode.
phones have that as an option. So I think Apple by default is encrypted. I know
Right.
on Lineage it's
Use
an
that.
option. You can go in and turn it on. So I'd encourage you to go
Yeah.
through your settings. If you have that
Yeah.
option, turn it on. It should be under your
Yeah, I
privacy and
forgot that
security.
that was there. Definitely in Android, and it's most likely definitely there in iOS, like you
Yeah,
say.
I think Apple, you don't have the choice. Your phone is encrypted with Apple. With Android, you do actually have a choice.
That makes sense. But encrypt your data, and I would say when you're carrying your phone around, just carry your most recent stuff. Maybe use something like Send Anywhere or AirDrop if you've got a Mac and you've got the whole ecosystem set up with Apple. Use AirDrop or use Send Anywhere if you're on a different platform or you don't run Mac OS X. And try not to keep too much of your personal data on your phone. Kind of keep that on a partition on your computer, kind of encrypted and stored away. You don't want some random stranger getting a hold of your data. With these looting and riots going on, if you're in a bigger city, in effect, you could be attacked and they could steal your phone. And that's where I'd say you set passcodes as well, but don't try not to do a PIN code. Try to do a real password like you would on the computer. And I guess you could use biometrics because it's going to get kind of cumbersome to use it. I'd steer away from Face ID. I would probably go with a phone with Touch ID if you're in the new market for a new phone and your
Yeah,
privacy
I
and
personally
security.
am not into either of those because the law is right now fuzzy on requiring
Yeah,
and compelling a passkey, but it's not fuzzy at all regarding biometrics. You can be
right.
compelled to use biometrics to unlock a phone, versus you
Knowing how
cannot be
people
compelled
are, there.
necessarily for that. What's that?
I'm sorry. Knowing how people are, I was just thinking there. It's push comes to shove, somebody's going to turn on biometrics. Most people. It's just how we're. It's just being human sometimes. It's best if you could enter a password every time, but most people will not do that. So I was trying to find a compromise there.
Yeah. I mean, there are things to keep in mind. Is that so?
When you're setting a password, set a passphrase, just 2 or 3 words that are common or memorable.
Yeah.
That are relatively short words. That way, it's not so cumbersome to enter every time. And then there's also password managers like Bitwarden. Apple has their own passwords built into the phone that's supposed to be
Yeah.
reasonably secure.
And
So,
And mentioning encryption, you can use a Linux distribution if you're building a new operating system. You have the option to encrypt a home partition. If your system's already working, you can encrypt your home partition. The other thing you can do, though, is you can do full disk encryption. So I've started to do that on anything that's a mobile computer.
yeah.
Easy to be lost or stolen or something. So encrypting all of your hard drives from the bottom with Lux is a good option on Linux. Quint, let's jump on over to you. What else do you have?
Yeah, like Tom, I also use Lineage. I have an Essential phone, and it runs Lineage fine. I'm on the new Lineage OS, the new Lineage OS 17.1 on Android 10. And I do use a custom host file like Tom does. What I actually use, though, instead of pushing it through ADB, I know you're not really a fan of allowing apps to have root access, but I actually have an app off F-Droid called Add Away that will that you put your links to your host files in. It will build the host file, and then it will check for updates.
Okay.
So that's a bit. It maybe isn't. It's not maybe as secure as doing ADB root instead,
Mm-hmm.
but it allows you to do. It's really easy to do it. It's a lot easier, and it makes you remember to update. Like, 'cause if I
Mm-hmm.
did it through just pushing it through ADB, I wouldn't remember how to update it or
Yeah,
remember to.
I can't say I've updated my host file on my phone for a while, but
And
it's still
so
pretty good.
add away like will give you a notification and stuff when there's new host files to be downloaded, and
Mhm.
it's really really easy. Let me actually. I was
Now,
actually in recovery right now.
does the app really write to the host file? So if you were to
Yeah, it
install the
does.
app,
It
if you were
requires
to
root access.
install the app and then uninstall the app, then what would it destroy that host file, or would it keep your custom host file there?
I think it would keep it. I've never tried that, but it does require root access.
Okay.
So
All
it
right.
actually will write to your physical host file because you have to reboot the phone after you apply it
Okay.
too.
Okay. Yeah,
Let me
that makes
actually
sense.
pull up the app right here. I was in recovery because I was going to do something, but I'll just do that later.
All right.
Yeah. So here's the app right
Sorry, I had to
here.
get rid of something. Is my audio level? Does it sound
Yeah,
like it's fading out at all?
you're fine. No, you're fine, Mark. I'll let you know
Okay.
if you're
Yeah,
not.
I actually have a new update to install here. This
There
is
you
what the
go.
app
Yeah, we
is
can't.
right
It's not focusing, of
here.
course, but
I know some.
oh, there. Oh, it just focused, and you pull away. You like doing that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. There's not much we're gonna be able to see there. Anyway. There you go. Okay, you're focused now. Go back down to the top of the phone again. There you go. Add away. All right. There you go. All
And
right.
you can go in here and you can put in your sources. It comes with a couple sources by default, which are I think it comes with the it comes with hostfile.net. I think it comes with the yo-yo one. There's a couple other ones that
Yo.
comes with by default. I put my own for Facebook blocking in, and I put
Mm-hmm.
another one in that I like. You can
Yeah.
actually go in here. There's
Yeah.
actually an option
Are
here
you blocking
that
all like 25 Facebook domains?
I found a thing on GitHub that's for blocking Facebook, and I just
Yeah.
trust that.
Nice.
There's a thing here to actually open the host file so you can like edit it manually without having to like go through a file manager and stuff.
That's cool.
There's a way to actually to manually add something. Like you can actually like manually add or remove a domain. And it's just a really nice app. It's on F-Droid, so I trust it because it's open source and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and
And
the
like Tom,
F-Droid apps are really audited well, so.
yeah. Like what Tom said, you probably could just install the app, apply the host file, then delete it. It should keep it because I don't think it deletes anything when you uninstall the app.
Maybe I'll play around with that a little bit. I have a
You do
couple of those
have
phones laying
to,
around.
on Lineage, you have to flash that extra add-on for root. Do you know
Okay.
how there's that extra thing you have to
Yeah.
install? You have to do that.
Yeah.
The new
I'll
Lineage doesn't have that anymore, so you have to flash something called Magisk, which is a third-party root manager, but it's open source and it works well.
Yeah.
But if you're on the older Lineage, you can just flash their root thing.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to think of 5 other specific tips for resisting data collection. Here's another specific tip. If something's requiring more information than it needs to have, then really ask yourself if you have to have that. So for the other business I'm getting started with right now, we're looking at the various social media accounts. Let's think about doing like a Parlor account. It's social media. It requires a phone number for access. Nope, sorry, not happening. So anything that requires a phone number, if it's social media, no, not happening. If you're doing something like banking, I mean, I get it, although I'll fight with them tooth and nail. And I think I think I have one system maybe that still has a phone number on it regarding banking stuff. But actually, I haven't even checked that in a while. So we'll kind of see. But that's really the thing because attaching your phone number to things is not secure. In fact, it inherently makes everything more secure. You're focusing everything onto a single point of failure, and then it basically makes the failure point easier to breach. And so SIM swap attacks, you just go in and social engineer your way in, sweet talk into getting somebody to give you a new SIM card or upgrade your phone or whatever else. And so that's why you don't want to attach stuff to your phone number. Now, having an authenticator app or YubiKeys or things like that, those are good ways, and I would definitely support organizations that allows you to do those types of options for two-factor authentication instead. Anything other than them sending you a text message, which is the most insecure means of communication outside of possibly some of the simplest emails. So, all right,
Um,
go
what
ahead.
I can actually say what I do in regards for phone numbers is I have a server running free PBX, and there's actually a program for any asterisk-based phone server or VoIP server. It's called Lenny, and what it does, it's essentially this old man like chatbot thing, where it's these recordings that is designed to annoy telemarketers. It sounds like an old man who doesn't know like what's going on. But I use that, and every time what I do is every time something requires a phone number, I just give them that. So that way, if they
Mhm.
want to talk to somebody, they can talk to Lenny.
Well, what I'm talking about though is companies that want to force you to use your phone number to verify who you are or to send
Oh,
you
yes,
two
stuff
factor
like that.
authentication text messages. Screw you. You're a social media platform. Sorry. I'll move on without you just fine, you know.
I do stuff like that. For example, if it's something like if I'm ordering something and it requires a phone number, I'll just give them that number because there's
Yeah,
nothing they
yeah.
can do with it.
Yeah, that's definitely the case.
You
Mark,
should
let's
look up.
Mark, do you have any other specific tips?
No, I think we covered the basis of it. Really watch that SIM swap thing because that seems to be happening a lot.
Yeah, that's something you want to be very careful of, and why
Yeah,
you don't want to tie things to a phone number. And
because
if you have to tie it to a phone number, go and get yourself. It's worth getting yourself an extra account, like the Mint Mobile accounts. 15 bucks a month you can get a
as a
year of service. Utilize that and make sure that nobody else has that phone number in any way, shape, or
yeah,
form. And then you'll just frustrate the bejeebers out of people that harvest your phone number and be like, because you can go
yeah,
down to you can go to like Best Buy and get the SIM to start a mobile Mint Mobile account and pay it with a prepaid credit card or something,
yeah.
and
And
you can do all that, and you never really
that's
have to
that's
give them information about who you actually are.
that's
So
probably what I'll do eventually. That's a really good idea, really
yeah.
smart workaround. But one if like Tom says, if you can get away, try never, never, never to enter your phone
Hmm.
number
Yeah.
anywhere on anything online. Period. Even on your computer, if you can help it, don't
Hmm.
put any down any personal identifiable information.
Yeah, and,
Uh,
and and just be a little bit more inconvenient. Not only does it protect you in your privacy realm, but being inconvenient also teaches you a little bit more about discipline. A lot of the big problems we have in our world right now, I am convinced, are because we are in an entitled society that wants everything right here, right now, exactly for me, exactly the way I want it. We've bred that into ourselves by accepting the most convenient ways of doing everything and everything and everything. It gets down to that final point where we get to this point, and for a good example, I just finished reading. I read Brave New World and then I read 1984. I'm going to do a cross analysis video of those together. But then there's actually another book that evaluated these two and said, which one are we closer on? This is Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death. And his final statement is, something to the generalized effect. In 1984, the government oppressed you by forcing you to do certain things. Now we're slowly morphing into that world. But in Brave New World, we accepted the things for our own pleasure and convenience. And that is what led to the fall of the world and that dystopia. And we don't want to force ourselves into that realm of accepting everything just because it's the most convenient, because ultimately um, that's ultimately going to give you the final issues in. So we're going to wrap up the recorded part here. So I'll release that shorter clip out later, but we can hang out for about another 20 minutes or so.
every new convenience it feels like that comes out in modern day has a cost. It's a
Yeah, absolutely.
cost benefit analysis that you have to run in your head and say, well, if I do this, it'll be so convenient and easy. But is it really worth the cost of someone getting your personal information someone could get your social security number
Hmm.
and just wreak havoc on your credit score in your life. If you give them an inch, they can piece together stuff on social media as well about you, and they
Hmm.
can form a pretty good profile on a person and go after them if they know they may have money for whatever reason. They've seen you online, or
Hmm.
you appear nice at a restaurant. Anything, any kind of situation where they think someone might be well off, and it may
Hmm.
be worth to go at their finances.
Yeah. So Vince
Yeah.
said he got a second phone number for that. What is that number, Vince? Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and check it on comments. So let's to have a little discussion about whatever is in our comments here. And so we have like 20 minutes or so. We'll end the live portion about 20 minutes or so. Let me go through the comments. First, avoid Windows as much as possible. So I had to boot up my Windows computer today to check on something for a client, and I go into my network. I had to grab a file that was from there, and it's like, there's a Samsung TV connected to your network. I'm pretty sure there's not a Samsung TV connected to my network. So I go in, and I'm like, okay, let's just double check this. Go in, look at all my DHCP leases. Like, no, there's nothing here that's even close. There's nothing here with this alleged MAC address either. I have no idea why Windows was showing a random Samsung television in my network connections. If anybody can shed any light on that, let me know, and there's a reason I don't use Windows.
I had that happen to me recently.
Was it a
On my
Samsung television?
No, but it was something kind of. It was a device. It looked like to be some kind of computer that was not. It was not in our house. I don't see how it could have been ours. I thought
Hmm.
of everything, and I'm like, this is odd.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe,
wondering if maybe it was Bluetooth is on and there's some Bluetooth
yeah,
TV somewhere. I mean, that's possibly the case. I mean,
maybe,
I know
maybe
Bluetooth is
that's
on
what.
because the mouse on that's Bluetooth.
Yeah, maybe, and
That's
they
probably what it
intentionally formed.
was. Maybe like a neighbor or somebody.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I can't imagine why it would have been connected to my device though.
yeah. The fact that it was
Unless
on your network is so worrisome.
unless it actually got accidentally connected when I upgraded the system, because I remember I was on when that was the thing was still running Windows 8, it would fight with the Bluetooth mouse and with the attachable keyboard. Since I upgraded it to 10, I haven't used it much on 10, but since I upgraded it to 10, I haven't noticed those issues. But when I first was attaching it, I might have accidentally synced something else. So I'll go in and check the Bluetooth settings, see if there's some random Bluetooth thing there. But it disappeared after I started looking for the IP address on my network or the MAC address on my network.
Bluetooth generally works on a personal area network, so that would be kind of separate from
Yeah,
your
it might still show up as a
home network.
network device though, because I just pulled up the network
If you're doing
devices.
something specific, yeah,
Yeah,
it could change that outcome. Yeah.
absolutely. CJ won't give up the chair. That's right. He's going cat power is what he's doing. Cat power. He's forcing everybody to go cat power. He's becoming crazy. My cat's gone mad. I don't know where he is. He's hanging out somewhere. Is 5G really an issue? I really haven't looked into all of the serious issues. I'm going to say that because it's being forced and everybody that says otherwise is instantly called a conspiracy theorist, and that every government in the world wants to push it so fast, I'm going to say yes, there's probably a problem there, just based on past precedent of how governments and societies tend to work. But do I know specifically what the issues are? Not necessarily, other than the fact that the waveform is fairly close to that of microwave technology, like microwave wavelengths. And there's different patterns of wavelengths and energy lights, and then it depends on how intense it is and things like that. So it is something I want to look into a lot more. I would be more leery of it. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the complex not too far from me, actually, I think they put up 5G network and security cameras over there. So I was kind of watching what was going on. And it's like, that seems a little weird. So I was going to take some pictures of it. Fortunately, from my deck on my telescopic lens, I might actually be able to take a photo of one of the boxes from my porch. So I might
From
have to
what
do
I
that sometime and see.
from what I
Yeah, you
understand,
got really quiet, Mark. You're really quiet.
oh, Uh, is it better now at
There
all?
you go. Yep, you're good now.
You really do have to be close to these condensers. Wow.
Yeah, you do.
Um,
Got to be like
from
this.
what I understand with the 5 gigahertz, the 5 gigahertz, the
5G.
5G, 5G, 5 gigahertz. I'm thinking handset phones, cordless phones or something, 5.8
Yeah.
gigahertz. No, what I understand, the waves are different. So they're not going to penetrate human skin as deep. It doesn't penetrate as deep. And that's what keeps it from being so dangerous. There's something scientifically Tom talked about. If it's deionized waves, radio waves. So if that ionizes, if it comes in contact with the elements of the earth, like water, wind, or what have you, like maybe there's a 5G tower at the beach along Oceanside that people use to connect to their phones while they're on the beach. That could become ionized if water and wind and salt hits it and everything, and it could ionize it. Then those waves could actually cause damage. Is that? Am I way off?
Well, so to understand where some people are having the issue, we have to understand the concept of resonance. More physics than chemistry, but there's a little bit of crossover between it. So if you remember, I've covered the name of it, but there's a famous bridge that was used as a resonance example. You'll hear about it in basic physics classes, particularly like a high school class, because it's kind of cool. The engineers built this bridge across this canyon, and they never did any architectural design. And it turns out that the wind bouncing off the canyons produced a certain degree of resonance. Well, when you get resonance inside of the molecular structures of the cells, because atoms are always in flux, so they're expanding. Well, when you get resonance, resonance is additive or subtractive. If you get a wave that's hitting a resonating frequency, it will amplify and double the resonating frequency. And that's what happened with this bridge. They built this bridge, and they actually built the bridge with a natural resonance of the same resonance that the wind hit. So literally like day one, this thing just starts doing this and just toppled into the canyon because the resonance matched the wind patterns as the wind flew through there. Well, the same type of thing can happen. The 5G frequency is very close to the natural vibrational resonance of water. And so what can happen is if there's a 5G power of enough intensity near water vapor is it can cause it to resonate out. That's exactly how a microwave works. A microwave works by hitting the resonance frequency of water and doubling the energy of the water very rapidly. That's how the technology works. And so that's the concern is that if your 5G is hitting that resonance frequency with a high enough intensity, it could cause issues. Are those studies done yet? I do not know because it hasn't interested me enough to dive into the literature to look. But that's the theory behind what the situation is.
There was a study done years ago on rats, and it showed that I don't know if it killed the rats or it gave them some sort of cancer from the radiation. That might have actually been 4G LTE because I'd say that study was done quite some time ago. But I know
I
we're
don't think
humans,
4G
but
LTE is in any frequency that's close to water or anything like that. I don't think it is.
5G then. They
One
said it
thing,
was 5G.
one thing that I'll add about 5G is people think that 5G is such a major improvement over 4G. In reality, it's not because you can already get, I think 4G LTE, like category 12 or whatever the highest category is, can already get like 600 megabits a second.
Wow.
Yeah, you can get a lot with 4G.
So 5G is just completely over. I think it's a gig. I think it's a gigabit a second is what they're
Yeah, and they're requiring you to have like unlimited plans because you'll eat through your plans so fast.
Most people are not doing that type of stuff on their mobile. Your purposes for a mobile device are not going to require that. I would not imagine anyone even coming close to 500 needing that on a mobile device.
That's the thing. What do you really need that for? And that's a question. Bill says, can you connect zeros to make gaming PC? No, they're not powerful at all. I'm actually surprised I can run a Pi-hole and a VPN on the Pi Zero. Actually runs pretty well though.
Are we still recording?
We're not recording, but we're streaming.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Still
We just
streaming.
are.
We're not recording. Yeah.
I was gonna add, this is more of a lineage thing, but
Yeah.
the other, probably about a week ago, all the Pixel phones except for the latest Pixel 4a have lineage support now. So
Cool.
Pixel 1, Pixel 2, Pixel 3, Pixel 3a, and Pixel 4 are all have lineage support.
I need one with a headphone jack and no notch.
You should get the Pixel 3a because it has no notch and a headphone jack, and it only came out like about a year ago, so it's pretty new.
I might have to look into a Pixel 3a then. That might be something I want to do. Want a Raspberry Pi to replace your Android streaming media player? Well, I use Raspberry Pi 2B to replace for all my streaming stuff, which actually works really well. So I would not do that on the Zero, but the Pi 2B is good. Of course, you're not going to find that anymore. Just go ahead and get yourself either a 2 or 4 gigabyte.
The only problem with the Pi 2 and Pi 3 is that they're only 10100 Ethernet, so that can be a problem for applications.
We were looking into this. It looks like the 3B pluses went up to gigabit.
Yeah, that is.
Is that
correct?
The
3B plus, that's one of the like big things about it, is that they added gigabit Ethernet. It's
just
the ones before that don't have gigabit.
Yeah, I was trying to find the specs on that when we were talking here.
I have a 3B plus.
Yeah, I'm on like CanaKit's page, and they're not actually giving me the actual board specs. Let me back up far enough to get to the Raspberry Pi. See if I can.
Yeah, I have Home Assistant on my 3B plus at the other house, and it is gigabit because it's next time I go over there, I can like look at the link speed and stuff, but I believe it's gigabit.
Yeah, that's what just based on the description, they weren't telling me exactly what it was, but they're like, they were like, faster Ethernet on the B plus. So, and they also support power over Ethernet as well. That's something I'm going to look into for one of my devices, being as that it's just going to be a web server with nothing else on it. I think power over Ethernet would be a cool feature to do.
Power over Ethernet requires an additional thing you have to put on top.
Correct. Yeah, and what it's going to boil down to for me is the power consumption, because I'm trying to get my system as low power as I can. And so if what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at how much power those are using. So like I got the CanaKit power supply is the one that's in this box here. This is I think it's like a 5 point, let's see if it tells me on the back. It doesn't tell me exactly on the back, but it's like a 5.1 volt and what do we got right back here? 5.1 volt, 3.5 amp, which is just enough power. I needed to get the higher power source on this one because I'm going to have an external hard drive on it. Of course, the external hard drives usually are 700 milliamps, and the one I got is 1 amp. So I have to have a little bit higher power rating, and that actually does do it on noobs. So
here's actually right here. This is an original Raspberry Pi I have laying around.
Nice.
This is the original one that first came out. But what I was going to say, do you have a power over Ethernet switch? Because I can give you some recommendations if you don't.
No, I don't. But what I needed is just a single port one, and so I've actually found some online. You
can get like one of those like little brick things. Then instead of a switch, you just get an injector, is what that's called.
Yeah, that's the ones I was looking at. So they just have extra power.
I have a Ubiquiti power over Ethernet switch, but I use PoE for a lot of stuff. Like my access points use power over Ethernet. Like there's no other way to connect it except power over Ethernet.
Yeah.
And so I need PoE, but I know
I don't need a lot of them. I just need one of them. Everything else I'm doing is plugged into a wall. So, let's see. But yeah, I'd be curious to know. Maybe I'll grab the ones I'm looking at and send them over to you. See if you have any opinion on those. I just need a single injector is what I need.
I actually have some Ubiquiti PoE injectors that came with the access points that are. I don't use them because I have the switch. They're 48 volts, but I might be able to send those to you. But the thing is that they're passive. They're not 802.3 AF, which is the active PoE that most things that the Raspberry Pi uses. And so even though that's the same voltage, I still wouldn't trust it.
Yeah, I'll have to research it some more.
I would it's just better safe than sorry just to go ahead and get a active. You need to make sure you get one that's 802.3 AF active.
Yep. That's what I'm looking for. So,
What do y'all think about the convergence of? It seems like Apple is making a push for it with the iPad. The convergence of computers with mobile. They're going to try their best. I feel like that is the future, whether we like it or
yeah,
not.
they're. I don't think they're going to succeed in that. There's
No,
too many things still that I don't even really see that doing good.
I don't think they'll
What it
completely succeed, but they will have enough success to where it's annoying. Because
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
what did Mark say? He was really quiet.
Yeah, Mark, you're quiet again. It's
yeah, the
Apple's trying to
cables,
push the convergence to get
computers and
basically
all.
push everything onto the tablets, really onto their iPad Pros, so they can charge, your left leg, your right leg, all the money in your account and your firstborn child for
Or
Apple
less.
products.
The whole thing with Apple's that I might consider an Apple device if you could install a third-party app store on it without
That's yeah.
breaking. If they allow that, I wouldn't have any problem. I would probably
Yeah,
still be on Android, but I wouldn't have any problem with Apple.
that's just like
I recommend it.
the DOJ is looking at doing, another antitrust suit against Google. Where's the antitrust suit against Apple? I don't see where, like, Google is just big and invasive, but it's possible to get away from them. Apple, you don't have a choice. You're doing it like I'm
Isn't
telling
there
you
this
to.
whole like Apple antitrust thing? I know like Telegram was like in it or something. Do you
Yeah,
remember
a
that?
whole lot of companies are right now.
I need to look that up. I haven't done any research on
Yeah,
that.
it all boils down to the fact that you can't sideload an app. And I get it. I'm not saying they need to make it easy. I'm just saying they just need to make it possible.
I see a huge, huge future for Arduino Raspberry Pi devices going forward for ARM processors, even in desktop and laptop, tablet arena.
Hmm.
I see a huge push for micro board architecture hardware that you can run in the field. And by in the field, I mean for different applications that are job specific or industry specific in corporations, uh, with home automation and things like that. There's so many things that they can be used for. It's kind of a world is your oyster with those, and it's amazing what all can be done on a little board like that today. Like Tom has been working with, and it's just a testament to how far technology has progressed over the years. Because to get a system that powerful in the mid to late '90s, it was a big beige box with
I remember
huge
the
tower.
laptop I bought for $1,200 in 1999, I think it was, to do some stuff mobily in college. Man, that thing was, I mean, it was huge. Wish I had a picture of it, but I don't.
Yeah.
Vince says he would have connected to the Samsung TV and started playing some STL content on their TV. I should do that. I should boot that Windows 10 computer back up and see if I can find that thing. Let me get into there. Somebody comes in. I think someone was trying to hack a TV. Not me, man. I don't have Windows.
Do you think it would be possible? I know I can do the VPN. I'm going to do that through. I think I'm going to use Linode, but I'm thinking about this should be simple. I'm probably overthinking it. I'm thinking about doing like a personal Stadia setup to where I just have a select few titles, mostly older games that I love to play,
Hmm.
just for me and my friends to access.
Well,
Just over the
you
Linode.
would, to give access to you and your friends, you would be running into some legal barriers. Um,
But I could at
uh,
least do
uh,
it for me.
Unless they're like the original Doom, which is pretty much available for free
Yeah.
anyway, anywhere.
Maybe some
Um,
emulators.
yeah, well, even emulators are fine, but the ROMs you have a problem with. You cannot be pushing out Nintendo ROMs onto a server for your friends. Nintendo will come after you and sue you for everything you're worth if you do that.
Right. Yeah, I won't do
So
that.
yeah, you wanna be very careful about those and be cognizant of what the law says. In fact, I have a video coming out soon
I'll,
It's done. It's surprisingly, I have it done, and I'll just kind of push out when I get to it. But there's a company, and I think it's an Amazon company, but I can't find anything about it. And I don't know if what they're doing is legal, but it's Amazon, so maybe or maybe not. But called Artiflix, and they basically preserve old movies that have never really made it onto DVD. So they sent this to me. And it looks like this, and there's no dates, there's no copyrights, there's no anything on it other than the title and the, Wikipedia page description of the movie. But one of the channels on the audio is messed up. And so I talked about how to fix that. But even with that, there's a question like, are you allowed to take this and make a copy of the file that you're not even sure if they were legal to sell to you, but, it's Amazon, so okay.
right,
Personally, I don't see a
right.
problem with like copying DVDs and stuff because it's the same thing as like copying like a CD to put on an
Well,
iPod. Like
well,
people,
it's not because a DVD is encrypted, a CD is not. The copyright law specifically says you cannot break encryption to get around something, and that's why there's murkiness. But the problem is that law has never been challenged. So if you were to take a DVD, rip it, and display it on the internet, you would have a lot of problems. But taking your own DVD, ripping it to put it onto your own infrastructure at home alone, for you can watch it just yourself and your family, I don't see necessarily a problem with that. But if the FBI wanted to kick down your door for something, it could be an extra charge they could throw on top of you. And so these are things you have to keep in mind.
yeah.
So,
I
but
mean,
yeah, that's the difference because DVDs are encrypted, and
it's
the law
experiment.
explicitly says you cannot break encryption on there
Yeah,
of anything, where to, when, where, if, at, bleh, and that goes into lawyer speak, and I lost track of
in
thought.
that same law, in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, it turns around and gives you legality. You can actually make a copy for yourself. However, in order to make that copy for yourself, you have to circumvent the encryption. So
Yeah, which is specifically
it's kind of
forbidden in
crazy.
another portion of the law.
The fact they put that in there, though, shows that they didn't clearly think that through, and that could easily be challenged.
Correct. And that's why I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with taking your own collection and digitalizing it for your own
Yeah,
personal use, but I would not be putting that on a cloud anywhere and telling my friends about it.
Yeah. It's good like when I just have my stuff on a local server. That's like
Mhm.
the best way to do it is just to keep all your media and stuff, regardless
Mhm.
if you rip it on it. If you rip it, just keep it on a local server.
yeah, yeah. So local meaning you actually have a physical server in your house?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
have a Dell PowerEdge T410 in the closet next to me
Nice.
that runs it. Actually, it's a hypervisor running XCPNG, which is a Zen based hypervisor.
Yeah.
It's all open source, and I have a NAS in there that has like photos and media and stuff. Or it's Open Media Vault is what I have in there.
Gotcha.
I also have a my Unify controller for my network, and I had a VPN server in there, but I got rid of that when I switched to PFSense because PFSense has a built-in VPN server. And I'm trying to think. There's one other thing I have on there. I can't. I'm blanking on what it is though.
My whole idea was to kind of it would cost so much in hardware to revamp this system and build out basically it would be a new system. I was thinking why not have one dependable server in the cloud with the node, pay monthly or pay quarter, however I want to pay, and would that not be cheaper and offload some of these apps and stuff that I use and the media off of my system onto the cloud for it would be for my personal use only I would have access because I wouldn't do it publicly. Now that you mentioned the law issue, I'm not going to even go there with that. I'll have it locked down and it'll just be me that can access it
Mhm.
privately. Uh,
Yeah. Now, the
but
that's
just
one of
to
the things of
undo
the
some of
Plesk media server is that does allow you to access your own files from the internet.
yeah,
Which I'm not exactly sure how they do that, but that's something I don't know. Maybe I could play with it a little bit.
let's
Um, Oh, the other thing that I brought on it is
You right? Oh, you went muted. Okay. I think someone came into the room.
Sorry, yeah, my brother just came into the room. That's why I paused.
Oh, that's fine.
What I
Hi,
was
Quinn's
saying
brother.
is that he's not there. He just left.
Oh, okay.
What I was saying though is that what I was saying is that I run free PBX on there too. And regarding I know you talked about this earlier about Open Media Vault and resource consumption. My Open Media Vault virtual machine only has 1 gig of RAM and it works fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think mine's ever gone over a gig. If I check out the monitor. Bill asks, "What is Ethernet power?" Quinn, since you use that a lot, you want to explain a little bit about what's going on with that?
So power over Ethernet is a technology where it sends power and data over the Ethernet cable. For example, I have some Ubiquiti access points, and the only way to power them is through the Ethernet cable. Like there's not like a power port on them. And so the way it works is it uses Ethernet actually only uses, like for data transfer, it only uses 6 pairs for data transfer. And there's 2 extra pairs that are just left unused. But when you use power over Ethernet, you utilize those 2 extra wire pairs to essentially distribute power to the device also. There's a couple of there's 2 different types of PoE. There's active PoE and passive PoE. Active PoE is what's referred to as 802.3AF, AT, or BT. Those are the different standards. They're all under the 802.3 standard. Similar to like Wi-Fi's 802.11. But they're active, which means that if they essentially are smart and they can tell if the device on the other end uses power over Ethernet. So if you plug a device that doesn't have power over Ethernet into a power over Ethernet, into like a power over Ethernet switch or something, it will know that your device is not power over Ethernet, and it will basically, it's like a safety thing to prevent you from messing up your device. That's why I like active PoE the best, because passive PoE doesn't do that. Passive PoE is just sending straight power. Typically, it's either 24 or 48 volts into the device, regardless if it supports power over Ethernet. And so I try to stay away from passive as much as possible, just because it's really easy to fry a device. And what I should have mentioned before is 802.3AF is 48 volts, 802.3AT is 56 volts, and 802.3BT is 60 volts, I think. That's BT is like a brand new standard that came out like 2 years ago, so not many devices use it yet. But that's basically the basics of power over Ethernet. You want to make sure you want to stick with active when you can. I know some devices, like I have a Ubiquiti Edge router that acts as a managed switch, and that only takes passive. Like there's no active option. And so I just have that plugged into a little PoE injector. But I try to stick with active as much as possible. But PoE is really helpful, especially for places in remote areas where you can't run power, like for example, a security camera or an access point mounted on the ceiling. PoE is really helpful.
Do you know what the amperage is on that?
I think the amperage on, I know the wattage. I don't know the amperage. I know the wattage for 802.3AF is the wattage for 802.3AF is 15 watts. Okay. It's 30 watts for 802.3AT, and then I think it's 60 watts for BT.
Well, 60 is not what the Pi's taking, because that's
the
4 times the wattage.
I think the Pi uses AF.
Yeah, the Pi is a 15 watt device, so whatever is 15 watt
that's
probably
AF. It'll say on the PoE board what standard it takes. It's most likely AF.
Yeah.
But typically, though, if you have a power over Ethernet switch, I know you have one of those little brick or the injector things. But if you have a switch, most of them can do, like my power Ethernet switch does both AF and AT, and it will auto sense depending on what the device takes.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I'll have to look into that a little bit more. Vince says, wouldn't sideloading compromise security on Apple? The answer is yes, and that's why they don't want to do it. But if it's my device, I'm paying thousands of dollars for it. It's my problem if it's compromised because it's my device, and I'd rather have that option. Like I said, I'm not saying they should make it easy. I'm just saying they should make it possible. And no, utilizing your Apple account and doing 15 other things is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the easily and being able to add the ability to do an app. I realize it's possible too. It's just not viable. Sounds like sleep apnea might be caused by microwaves. I don't know. I think sleep apnea is more often caused by overweightness because, frankly, people who are thin don't generally have sleep apnea.
The reason my brother came was to give me a cookie that my mom just made.
That's such a nice brother.
Yeah.
Can't fault him for that.
Tasty. All right. Granny's Raspberry Pi didn't look nothing like that.
Ask real quick. Does Linode support egress pricing, or is that only a DigitalOcean thing?
Like pay per the amount you use?
Yeah, just based on usage alone. Nice.
Yes, they do.
I think I'm gonna try that. I
love use one of the affiliate codes you can find if you call Linode up, and they'll actually tell you go find an affiliate code.
Level 1 text.
Yeah, use level 1 text. I think right now they're upgrading it. You'll get $100 in credit, which is several months of playing with it. Which I'm actually probably going to do that soon. The only reason I haven't actually spun up an ISP config on a VM right now or on a server right now is because I'm actually waiting for my hosting bill to come in so that I know what that is, because this is the month cPanel pricing changes. Yay! And as soon as I get that figured out, then I'm going to either going to open one at Linode. The problem with Linode, as I'm going to have with my original testing, is that they block all the email ports by default. And so rather than go through and play with those, I'm actually just going to use A2 for my initial test of ISP config because they don't block any of those ports. You can unblock them. You can request them be unblocked. But I don't want to go in there, create a brand new account for testing purposes only, use $100 credit, and say, can you open up the email ports for me? That's a little on the suspicious side. So.
Yeah.
Another common usage for power over Ethernet is security camera. Single cable needed. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what my cameras are so old. PoA didn't exist when mine were existing. I think I've had these cameras like 10 years now.
PoE was invented. I think active PoE. I think passive PoEs existed since like the mid 90s, but active PoE, like the standard, came out in I think 2003.
Maybe I'll check. Maybe I'll check to see if those actually have active or passive.
Most likely it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And actually, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if it would. I don't know.
What I have what my recommendation is for cameras is to install. There's an open source NVR program called ZoneMinder that you can install like on just any computer. It's Linux based. And then you just buy generic IP cameras that support RTSP. Like, for example, you could just get some RTSP cameras like off of Amazon. It doesn't really matter the brand. And then just hook them all up to that.
People are saying it should be a law to have homemade cookies on SwitchedTolinux. Man, I don't have cookies right now, though. I do have cupcakes.
Those were
yeah.
peanut butter cookies. They were peanut butter chocolate chip.
Delete your
I
cookies.
think they were flourless too, because I think my mom is gluten free, so we really don't eat much flour and stuff in the house.
Did you delete your cookies?
I ate it.
All right, that's deleted enough. It's no longer here. Okay.
Yeah.
We will need to wrap this up here in just a minute or so. So go ahead and wrap up your story, and then we'll do final words. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's all I was saying is that's what I would recommend is just to set up. There's I think there's one called Shinobi Video too, but ZoneMinder is the main one. And you can just get any camera on Amazon or wherever, as long as it uses RTSP or OnVIF, that's the other standard. It should hook up to ZoneMinder.
Everyone's got the cookie jokes going. Are your cookies keto? Probably not.
They're flourless. I don't think they're keto. They're flourless, though.
Tom, you need to run Bitdefender Home Scanner, and
Bit,
it'll scan your whole network if you've got a Windows install, and check and make sure that's not still on there.
yeah, yeah. What, the Samsung TV?
Yeah, the Samsung television.
Well, if it's anything,
mean,
it's attached to the Bluetooth on the Windows 10 computer. So maybe I'll boot that up here when I have a minute and do that.
Being it's a Samsung TV, you don't have to worry so much. But yeah, still, it's,
It's really impossible to buy a non-smart TV now. What I've actually found is the best solution is just to buy a projector and a screen.
Yeah, that might be the good options these days. Well, anyway, let's see. Mark, give us your final words.
you can find me at Yates Networks, and hopefully soon I'll have a couple covers uploaded on my personal channel, and I'm working on a video currently to replace my HDD swap video, hard drive swap. It's more updated and current. So yeah, that's good enough. You can find me on Minds. I think I'm just Mark Yates on Minds. I've got to change that to Yates Networks, and on Parlor. And yeah, that's pretty much the main ones I use now.
All right, Quint.
Yeah, I would just suggest try to use all the privacy tips we suggest in this video. Not giving out phone numbers, using VPNs when you're on like a public network. Don't use it. Contrary to what many YouTubers say for affiliates, you don't need to use a VPN at your house. It's mainly if you're somewhere else.
Yeah, I generally will agree with that, which is why I don't show mine for anything and every single purpose. Like, I use the VPN to access the network here, and I do have a VPN if I want to get out. But I'm actually, one of the projects I'm going to be doing soon here is to build one out, probably on Linode. So we'll experiment with that.
But yeah, I would suggest all the privacy tips we use. Go ahead and get yourself a Raspberry Pi. It's only $35 for the base model.
Grab a couple of them.
Yeah, I have 3. But yeah, I'd say just get some, and they're fun to play around with and do some privacy things. Like, I might test out on my touchscreen here. When I had the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, which is now at the other house, I actually was able to get a build of Android on here with the touchscreen and everything.
Nice. Very good.
So I might try that again. There's a specific person who compiled Lineage OS for the Raspberry Pi, and so that's what I was using.
Kind of wish they'd make it for the iPhone, but that's never going to happen with iPhone having everything locked down.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible to flash anything on an iPhone.
It's not at this point, yeah.
All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap up here. So yeah, just be intentional. Walk through life with intentionality, and every single time somebody wants data, you need to ask why. Like, going into the haircut. What's your email address? I'm sorry, I'm getting my haircut. You don't need my email address. Same thing. You download a game. If the game needs access to your contacts, you need to be questioning what's going on.
Yeah.
So use that. I will be streaming in about 45 minutes on my Christian channel. If you are into Christian type stuff, the link is there in the YouTube channel. So we are going through 2 Peter, starting in on chapter 1. So if you're into that type of material, then you can head on over there. 9 o'clock Eastern time. That's 45 minutes from now. So you can go ahead and check that out. So we will see you guys over there. And weekly news roundup tomorrow. So we'll see what we got. All right, guys. We'll catch you later.
Peace, everyone.